Three, two, and one. Howdy, everyone. Welcome to Rad Thoughts with Perry Picasso. I am your host, Perry Picasso, and today I am joined by a lovely guest.
Veronica Preciado.
Woo! So, Veronica is a very, very cool artist, someone who I admire, and she currently, what is your pronoun? Sorry.
She and they. I'm still kind of exploring that.
Slay. Okay. She, they, and he, she, they. So she has a work right now currently at the Cheech for the Desde Los Cielos group show, created by Emmanuel Camacho Larios and me. And it'll be up until March 16 of 2025. So go check it out. And you have a piece in there titled
Galaxy Cruiser.
Galaxy Cruiser. It is a very dope piece, which I'm very excited to talk to you more about. But before we dive into that, I would love to learn more about you, your art making practice. How has that sort of evolved for you? How did it come about?
Um, so I think like I've heard with Jess and Imanol too, there
The
was
mic, sorry.
oh sorry.
No, you're good.
Uh, from a very young age, I had an inclination towards art, and it
Okay.
was mostly with drawing and painting because that's what was accessible to me. But I always loved anything that was 3D that I could kind of make or take apart.
Hmm.
But getting into school, there weren't as many art classes available, so then I just went purely academic. And my parents were very much like, "You're gonna go to school, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna get like a good stable career." And so I focused a lot on like AP classes and just doing
Right.
that route. So when I went to college, I initially applied for biomedical engineering at UC Irvine, and that's
Whoa.
how I got
That's
started.
okay.
And my thought was, in my head, that was actually a compromise of I want to do something that's artistic, so maybe I can get into prosthetics and the design of them. So there's something still
Oh,
artsy,
okay.
but it's also engineering and stable and a reliable job. But as I started taking the classes, I really enjoyed them. We did one on heart valves, and I
Okay.
thought it was fascinating, but it was such a heavy emphasis on chemistry. I wasn't
Hmm.
getting that kind of design or any art element that I was hoping to get. And when I spoke to a counselor, they told me that my degree would most likely get me in a chemistry lab,
Mm.
which was not what I was thinking.
Right.
And when I told her what I wanted to do, she said, "Well, you'd almost have to create your own form of a bachelor's or program
Hmm.
to do something like that." And so it made me kind of debate, do I really want to keep doing this or do I want to follow what's in my heart and in my passion? And my dad had expressed to me too that he went small business because that's what he was told that he should do, but he really loved architecture and he
Okay.
has a regret that not kind of pursuing that.
Hmm.
And I had a very strong feeling that I would be exactly the same way.
Oh no.
So I took my first art class and I absolutely loved it. And I kind of figured if there's a whole department for this, then there has to be careers in this. Like I see
Mhm.
museums, there's got to be something. I just don't know what it is. So I made the switch to having my major be studio art with a minor in medical humanities. And then I kept taking an engineering class here and there because I still found an interest in it. My first sculpture class is where I got into welding,
Okay.
and I loved it. That was my favorite thing of
Was that your
everything
first
we
time
had done.
welding?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I had never
I
welded before.
love welding.
It's
It's
so
so
much, yeah.
fun. I know.
It's
I
so,
love
so
it.
much fun.
Yeah.
And I am fascinated every time when you pull that trigger to see the metal go from a solid into this like plasma and just melt it. Like, I don't know. To me, it's just fascinating. So I loved it. I kept trying to do that as much as I could while I was a student there. And I was just heavily drawn towards sculpture and three-dimensional art. And so I did that while I was at school. When I got out of school, then it became like, okay, what do I do for work? Like how do I make a living? And so I kind of let go of my own metal practice and my own art practice because I was just trying to find a job in the field. And that was very difficult. And it wasn't until maybe like a year or two ago that I decided that I was going to really get back into working with metal and really focusing on my own practice and trying to push it as far as I could. So I have been taking workshops and classes wherever I can find them. I took a metal shaping class out in Vegas that was awesome. Like I learned so
Mm.
much from it, and it helped with that series that I was doing with the metal luchador masks. And then I also took an automotive paint class that did pinstriping and leafing, and that again helped with the masks and then with the car too. So all of those things have been really helpful as I've pushed with my practice. And then I'm just saving as much as I can so I can get a tool or a hammer or this or that, and just to just keep expanding with it because I love it so much regardless if I'm burning myself or I put the drill into my thigh one time by accident, but at
Oh
the
my
end of
God.
the day I still really really enjoy all of it.
You love it.
I
This is
love it. Yeah.
wow. Okay. So then when you were at school, you said you were going for
Yeah, bioengineering.
bioengineering, and then you ended up just sort of switching and doing sort of your own thing for that.
Mhm.
And you said that at the time when you were talking to your counselor, you said that you had sort of a goal or that it wasn't going, what did you say? That the major wasn't aligned with what you wanted to be. So even from that
Yeah.
time, you already knew that this was not what you wanted to do.
Yeah, and I think it was just fear that I had over switching into something that I wasn't knowledgeable about how to make a living off of it. Majority
Okay.
of my family are teachers.
Mm,
And so they know teaching. But then beyond that, there's some other careers that are within the family, but no one works in art. So
okay.
this was kind of this big of like, what are you doing? What are you
Right.
thinking? How are you going to survive off of this? And I had no idea, but I knew that if I didn't at least give it a shot, I would regret it. And I kind of figured like if I have to go back to school, I can. It's
Okay.
not like I can't.
Right. You could always come back to it if need be.
Hmm.
Okay. Are you the only one sort of artistic in the family? Because it seems like your dad enjoyed architecture. So it seems like he was at least creative to some extent.
He was, yeah, and I think he still is. And there's a little bit like throughout the family, like my dad definitely in the immediate family, and then beyond that, I have cousins that do love art, and now I think I'm seeing more of the arts within that cousin level.
Okay.
I think just the way that my like our parents were raised versus how we were raised and the opportunities that we've had there's just a lot more for us now. And so I have cousins that are graphic designers and I have cousins that are teaching art now, and so there's more now that we had a bigger support system to be able to explore those things.
Okay. And was there ever sort of a time in which, when you were making, I guess even before you started your major, that you, like, what made it click that you were like, no, this is possible? Was it knowing that you said that there was an art because there was a whole major dedicated to it? Or was there sort of like a moment in which you were like, no, this is viable?
I don't know if I ever thought like viable in the sense of having the same stability as I knew I could get from a different type of job, but I definitely saw the possibility by seeing that there was a major in itself for it,
Mhm.
and seeing that there were professors within all of that, and then there was people getting master's degrees. And so in my head I thought, well, if people are studying this, and that means that there's got to be something. And I guess I would visit some art museums too, and I kind of thought, well, there's people that work there. I would imagine that some of them got these degrees, or that's like a path to get into these spaces. And then just seeing the artists that were at museums, I kind of thought like, okay, well, I would imagine some of them went to school. Like
Right.
there is a way to kind of get into this space. So it seemed like there were signs of a way to make it work.
Hmm. Okay. And then while you were in school, you did a lot of welding. I'm curious, what was your first sort of like welding projects like? Were they large sculptures? Were they much more small? Like, what was your start into welding?
Oh, okay. So it was beginner sculpture with Amanda Ross Ho, which she was a huge influence on me also feeling more confident about really trying it because she knew that I was coming from engineering and I was like, I don't know what to do if I
Mhm.
should really go for this. And I think I can't remember the exact prompt for the project itself, but two that I made while I was there that I loved. One of them was a set of wings, and
Ooh.
that was part of their undergraduate exhibition, which felt amazing because that's the first time I had been in an exhibition too. So to feel like, wow, I made something and the school is actually going to put it on display, that's incredible. And then another piece that I made was actually a spine. So that's where it was still kind of in reference to the biomed engineering
Yeah.
was
Okay.
when I was taking an engineering class, we were talking about spinal cord injuries and how people become paralyzed and they're not able to walk. And one thing was that it's not that the lower extremities are damaged per se. Oftentimes, it's just a matter of your spine being a freeway, and the messages from your brain are not able to get down to the lower part of your
Mm.
body. So the art project I made was like an exoskeleton spine
Hmm.
that was meant to repair that freeway in a sense. So I made little vertebrae out of metal
Oh
and
wow.
made the spine, and then I had some tubes and whatnot. And so that was me kind of still pulling from the biomed engineering, but then
Hmm.
also pulling in this like metal shaping. And I had to make these wood blocks so that I could hammer each little vertebrae to get that shape that I wanted. But I'm pretty sure those are like the first two things that I had
Hmm.
made.
Wow, that's cool. So it's always just so interesting that yeah, even though you sort of, I guess, you're like, all right, I'm done with bio, like you're never really done with it. It
No.
like crept its way in
Yeah.
somehow. Okay. Do you find that still happening now in your art making practice?
Yes, it's I haven't made a project that's fully back into that space again, but I have a sketchbook where there are a lot of projects that are referencing back to that. And there's even this group that's called the Alternative Limb Project that I watch and I love it. They're making these incredible things where it's like a full leg that is hand carved wood with a functioning cuckoo clock that comes out of it.
Whoa.
There's I think they recently made an arm that functions like an octopus tentacle, and so just looking at them and going like, "Oh, that's kind of what I had wanted to do," and just
Okay.
realizing that it's out there and I can still mix that into my art practice as well. And so I do want to at some point try to make a custom prosthetic for someone. I haven't done it yet, but it is on the list of like I want to do
That would be sick as fuck.
that.
Wow. Do you know what you would want to do?
When I first started thinking about the biomed engineering and it was this emphasis on like prosthetics and organ regeneration, my thought was actually of little kids. So
Hmm.
my thought was if you have this child and they went through some kind of traumatic injury that where they've lost a limb and they're having it replaced, my thought was that maybe it would be a little bit helpful or consoling if they were included in that design process of what the prosthetic would look like. So one of my first thought was, I wonder if a kid would enjoy having an arm that looks like Iron Man's arm,
Yeah.
or if it looked like any kind of favorite character they had, or their favorite animal, or anything like that. And so that was kind of like my thought with those.
That's so sweet. Oh. Okay. I can see sort of the merging of the art and like
Hmm.
the engineering, but also you still have that bio because it deals with the human
Hmm.
body. That's
Yeah.
so cool. I'm like imagining sort of like I don't know, I'm trying to like think of like how you would incorporate like Chicano lowrider culture into like a leg.
Oh,
Do
I
you know what I
would
mean?
love
Like
that. I hadn't even thought of that, but now I'm like, oh my God, a pinstripe leg with
yes, like
like
a
gold leafing.
pinstripe.
Like, oh, I think that would be so cool. I would love to do, maybe that will be the thing that I
Yeah. Like
make.
a big old like rose down
Yes,
the
that would be
side,
gorgeous.
something. I can totally see you doing something like that.
Oh, I would love to. I'm so glad that you said that now.
Because I think that would be so sick, or like an arm, or I don't
Hmm.
know, but like there's just so
Oh,
many different things. A chrome arm.
yes. Okay.
Okay.
It will happen. It
It's
will
gotta happen
happen.
now.
Hmm.
I'm putting it out there. If anybody wants a prosthetic arm or leg, hit up Veronica and get that started. I need to see
Yeah.
that. I mean, who knows? Maybe you could even start off by just doing it as like an art piece. Like it might not be
Yeah.
fully functional, but sort
Hmm.
of as like a what do you call it? Like a prototype
Yeah,
or
yeah.
concept. And then once you put it out there, somebody could be like, "Hey, I know how to make that happen."
Yes. I would love that.
Okay. I would love to see that
I would.
happen. When that happens, you better send me a text. Be like, look what
Oh,
I'm
I
working
will.
on.
I will. I will. Absolutely.
That's so cool. I really have been enjoying seeing sort of the ways you've been incorporating welding and sort of these sculptural pieces into objects that you might not consider immediately.
Mhm.
Which is why right now I'm thinking like the prosthetic arm, the prosthetic leg. That's
Mhm.
so cool. And you did the lucha libre masks.
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about sort of that, how that came to be, like why the mask and sort of like, yeah, the whole process of that.
The masks were a part of the residency that I did at the Garcia Art Center,
Okay.
which
Shout out Garcia Center.
yes, and Yulisa Mendoza as well too,
Shout
because
out you, Lisa.
I was at this point of like, man, I really want to do something with my art, but I feel like I'm having trouble finding a way to really get started or get my foot in the door anywhere.
Mm.
And I was doing this small little crafts fair when Ulisa saw that I had a flyer for a piece I had made out in Santa Ana and mentioned to me that they like run and organize that residency. So I applied and I was accepted and I was overjoyed because it was the first time that someone sat with me and kind of said, "What do you want to do with this?" And
Hmm.
do you want to do community engagement? Do you want to have a show? Like, what do you want to make? And just having that space, having someone believe in me without even seeing the work that I could possibly do,
Mhm.
it meant the world to me. And so I can't remember exactly how I got to the masks. I had always really loved lucha libre. I thought it was so fascinating and neat. I didn't grow up with it super closely, and which is sort of the same with the lowrider stuff too. There's part of a lot of my practice is me feeling pocho
Okay.
and trying to reconnect to this culture and the ways where I've really loved things, but I never got to be too close to them. So with the lucha, it was similar to that. I loved it. I saw it from a distance, but I never got to really like
Hmm.
get into it. And I think at the time too, I was also thinking a lot about politics and social like political issues, and so the with the lucha, as I started doing research about them, to me I started to see them as armor. It was a way to put on this mask. You're now this character, you now have this narrative, and you are going to fight for whatever it might be within the storyline of the match. But I felt like there was a parallel to life as well. And so that's how I decided to have all the masks take an aspect of Chicano culture in them. So there's a lowrider, there's a mariachi, there's one that's based off of Dia de los Muertos, there's one that's based more on indigenous cultures and the deities. And I felt kind of like the masks were armor, but also a way to say, I'm proud of my culture. I don't need to hide this away. This isn't a weakness. This is actually a strength that we have, and I don't need to assimilate and water myself down. Like, I can be proud of this, and I should be proud of this.
Yeah.
And it's what makes our community so vibrant and amazing. And so, metal, I love working with metal, but I also felt that there was something neat to make these masks out of metal because it did reference armor in a way by using it in that sense. But then in learning how to smooth it out, I was getting back to that shape too of kind of the classic masks as well. And then Ulisa had the amazing idea of also having a live match at the
That's
opening.
so cool.
It was so much fun, and it was I was so nervous for it. But Ulisa told me, it would be really cool if you had this. And at the time I thought, well, I don't have the money to like rent out a stage and to pay these fighters. And Yulisa had mentioned to me like, well, don't you do martial arts? Do you think you could do it? And I kind of thought, I don't know, no. But then I thought, well, maybe let me research it. So as I did more research, I told Yulisa basically, I'll do it, but will you do it with me? Because I don't have someone else that I'm like I would be comfortable doing this with
Mhm.
you. And so I looked up everything that I could. I found a school that had a YouTube site that gave you step by step how to do all these different
Oh
moves. And
wow.
so we basically had rehearsals and practices to figure out how we were going to move through this space and do this fight. And we did it ourselves. And that felt amazing to kind of say, like, we can do this ourselves. I don't have
Yeah.
to wait to figure out another way to do it. Like, we can just take care of it. And so we had that at the opening, and now having that element of performance art too, it makes me think, like, "Oh, maybe I want to do that again." Like, I think you, Lisa, and I at some point will probably have a rematch, and I'm really excited for that.
Who won the first
You
match?
know what? We technically I did, but there was a lot of conflict with me feeling like I don't know that I want someone to win in a way,
Okay.
because a lot of times there's this narrative of bad guy, good guy.
Right.
And I didn't really feel like that was the case with us. It wasn't bad guy, good guy. It was both good guy. We were both these examples of these wonderful elements of our culture. And so we tried to make the fight fairly balanced. There was times where Ulisa would get me and pin me, and it like that looked like it was it. And then there was times where it looked like I was going to get them. At the end of it, technically I did, and I guess I felt like, well, I'll try to keep true to the style or tradition of how the fights are done. But I don't know. I still want to explore maybe what the boundaries are of that too.
Mm-hmm. That's such an interesting point. Yeah, of the good versus bad, because that is such a
Hmm.
like constant trope of it. Like
Yeah.
there's like somebody who is the villain that you have to
Hmm.
like root against, or some people root for, or whatever. And to
Hmm.
like hear you wanting to like flip that on its head and be like, no, like we're
Yeah.
all in this.
Exactly. Yeah. I felt like that was really important.
Hmm.
And I'm sure, I mean, there's an element to that in real life too. If you could be on the same team, but you're still kind of fighting each other for some reason, and it's not worth it. It's better
Hmm.
to fight together towards something. So I don't know, maybe we can add another, like a third person that will actually be the bad person, and maybe you, Lisa, and I can get them, or I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
open to.
That'd be very interesting. And when you were doing that, you were actually wearing the mask.
We did both. So we had our entrances and we had the metal masks on,
Okay.
and then for the match itself, we took the metal ones off and we had fabric
Okay.
ones. So we had two.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, how is it like
Oh,
performing with the metal ones? Because that seems very intense.
we contemplated it and then quickly realized it probably wasn't the best idea.
Okay. Yeah, I would imagine
Yeah.
that it can get very dangerous very quickly.
Hmm.
Okay. That's so cool that like you got to do that whole thing. And I love that you said that you sort of took the initiative and said, well, why am I going to wait for anybody? I can just do this myself.
Hmm.
And I think that's such a important thing for a lot of folks to maybe realize, like, you don't need to wait for anybody. Like, if you have an
Yeah.
idea and you have some friends, somebody who believes in you, like, just do it.
Hmm.
And I think that having a community aspect and having someone like Yulisa, I love Yulisa, to like be
Yeah.
able to push you to do that. Um, how have you been able to continue to grow and foster that community? Have you been able to sort of branch out and incorporate more folks? Because I know that welding is something that's kind of like just again, that's one of those where it's like pretty much just like you by yourself, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Or do you have a team with you or like folks as well to help you?
So I feel like my community definitely expanded a lot from the Garcia Art Center residency, because there were so many people that showed up for that I had not met within the city. And it was amazing to see these people just show up for the art to support and then to be so welcoming towards me. So, like one example was Raya had helped with the photographs for the opening reception. I hadn't really met Raya or knew who they were. And then when I started a new job, we became coworkers. And it
Oh,
was this
slay.
cute circle moment of, oh my goodness, I didn't really know you that well, but you came and helped out just because you're there and you're supporting the arts. And so in doing the residency, I've met more people, which has been really nice, and been more connected to the arts community that's here in downtown Riverside, which has been wonderful because I grew up in Fontana area, and I wasn't really like out and about or doing much. And when I went to school at Irvine, I sort of got connected to Irvine in
Hmm.
that area. But I also lived in Massachusetts for almost a year. So I felt like I kept
Oh
bouncing
wow.
around and I
Hmm.
hadn't really been very social, and I tend to be more introverted as well too. So um, it was that first event that really got me out there, and then kind of taught me like these people here are so nice, and they're so willing and ready to just say, how do you need help, and I'll help you, and I want to support you with your art. And so it's been really sweet to now meet so many people here within the IE that are also artists and that are doing this, and they're so eager to tell each other, hey, I saw that this is coming up, you should check it out, or what are you working on? And so right now, when I make my art, it is just me, except my family will help from time to time, because there's been times where I'm in the garage, and if I can't move something or flip it or lift it, like with the lowrider, um, there's been times at 2 in the morning where I'm yelling out like, Dad, because I've got this thing up and realizing I can't bring it back down by myself. And so I'm waiting for him to come down and come help me. And so my dad is honestly like I tease almost my studio assistant in a way.
Oh,
He's the one that if I yell out to, I know he's gonna come help. Or if I'm like, Dad, I ran out of this color spray paint. Can you please run down to Ace Hardware and get me this one and this one or something? So my dad helps a lot. My mom has helped out too. Even my brothers I've brought into it. But ideally I'd love to have a studio space where I could actually bring more people in, and so they could give it a try, because those tools, it's hard to get a space set up to work and do those things. And I'm working out of a garage, and it's a wonderful setup, but it's also not the ideal safest setup either.
mhm.
So I'd love to get a studio space where I could just have an open door too, and if someone wants to come try something out, then they're more than welcome to come try that out too.
Oh, well, that's so sweet that you have your whole like family to help there and support you. And I also love that you're willing to open up the space for that, because I think that
Mhm.
having the door open, especially for something like welding, because you can't, that's not something you can really just pick up, like it's
Yeah.
not like a pencil where you can
Yeah.
just like get it. It's like, no, there's a whole like equipment and
Mhm.
safety and the protocol that you need to learn, because like
Yeah.
it's a very dangerous.
Yeah, it really, really can be. And so yeah, and it's not, I mean, you could sort of get started, but it's not going to be cheap to get started. So it's kind of like I wouldn't want anyone to invest the money just to try it out, especially
Right.
if they don't end up liking it. So yeah, I would love to be able to open the door and like, okay, do you want to come TIG weld? Try it. Do you want to come wig weld? Try it. Do you want to try to shape something off of an English wheel? Come do it. And then there's tools too that they're a little bit easier to set up. I made a what's called a shrinking stump,
Hmm.
and I learned how to, or I got to try one out when I took the metal shaping class in Vegas. And as soon as I got home, I went and bought lumber from Home Depot and the tools that I could use to make that. So there are some ways to like work around not having this big, like fancy, crazy machine. But yeah, I would still want to open that door to other people to give a shot.
I love that. Well, hopefully you can get a studio space soon. You can host workshops or
Yeah.
community events or something for folks to be able to go in. Have you found it to be a welcoming space for you in the welding community as someone who is an artist or a Chicana? Like, has that been an easy process?
You know what? I think overall I have been pretty fortunate that the people I've interacted with have been really supportive. Um, but I do hesitate to put myself in certain spaces because I will see the negative reactions that
Okay.
some women do receive by being in that space. So I do hesitate, and it makes me a little nervous to kind of enter them. I was really nervous taking the class that was for metal shaping in Vegas because I was not aware of this shop. I wasn't aware of kind of who would be there, what the dynamic would be. And I knew that it was based off of motorcycle gas tanks. So I
Oh,
also knew
okay.
that it wasn't really geared specifically towards artists, although there's absolutely an artistic element to it. But I was really nervous about it, and I was really fortunate that when I went, The it's a pair of brothers that run the shop, so Christian and Roberto Sosa, and they were very welcoming to everyone that was there in the class, and everyone was coming with a different background of what they wanted to do and why they were there. And he was totally open to the idea of me doing it for art. There was no like negativity towards that, so that was really sweet. And even with the painting class I took too, same thing. Everyone was really nice and open of just like, yeah, you're gonna use this however you're gonna use this for your own practice. So far everything's really been great, but I do hesitate because I see like female welders who do it as a trade job, and there's always people in the comments of like, why aren't you in the kitchen? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing, and like criticizing everything about it. So yeah,
Whoa.
it's just
Whoa.
kind of like, part of me feels like you go do it then. Why are you wasting your
Right.
time commenting on here? If you can do it better, then go do it better. But
Right.
also, no one's going to do anything perfect. So I'm going to enjoy my art and do it. At some point, I'm sure I'm going to face criticism. I actually got my first negative review, and it
Oh.
was really interesting.
Okay.
But it was a good lesson of, you know what? If you're going to be in this public space, at some point, I'm probably going to receive this. I need to learn how to have tough skin with it and then just keep going. Because at the end of the day, if I love it, I'm going to still keep making my work.
Right. You're just gonna have to keep on pushing through.
Exactly.
Alrighty, here, let me put on my glasses because I'm gonna. Okay. I would now love to talk to you about your piece that you have right now at the museum.
Okay.
So, this is your statement.
Mhm.
Cruising through the galaxy 2024, mixed auto parts. So it goes. Interstellar beings, get ready to turn heads across the cosmos. Intergalactic Cruiser is a perfect combination of ingenuity and style. Years ago, lowriders were limited to Earth's surface, but now you can soar across the stars in deep blue spaceships matching the night sky. With an adaptive ecosystem force field, any being can breathe and relax with the top open. Its intelligent operating system will fly the spacecraft for you, allowing you to sit back and relax in a crushed velvet seat. Ride low and slow through Saturn's rings or visit a neighboring field of comets. But when you need a boost, give the hyperspeed throttle a try. You'll be at your destination instantly. Four switches can be programmed to control what matter most to you and ensures the smoothest ride even around the toughest space rocks. This intergalactic cruiser is the ideal travel spacecraft of the universe. With sleek lines and chrome trim, you'll be the envy of your universe. That is such a slay, such a like
Thank you.
cunty statement. I love that the statement is almost like a
Mhm.
advertisement. Like this is someone like I don't know, like yeah, just like an advertisement for that. Please, I would tell me everything you can about this because yeah,
I
please.
I think the statement's actually like a good jumping point to go off of. So when I wrote that, I was thinking about the 1950s and 40s and how they would do these car commercials when the auto industry was just taking off. And so
Right.
now they started having all these like different unique features. Like your windows were now a button instead of being rolled up, like on all these kind of interesting things that were going on. But I would imagine and remember how, well, I mean, not remember, but looking at references at the cars, how they would be on those stages that would like rotate really slow,
Oh
and you'd have
yeah.
the mic that would come down, and the guy's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, now introducing the," and so that was the feel that I wanted for it.
Mm.
Was here's this commercial, and so I watched probably over an hour long compilation of
Wow.
commercials and the way they would phrase things and how they were marketing them, and so I wanted to kind of pull from that, and partially was because in the design of the piece itself, I was trying to do this blend of lowrider culture, but also futuristic cars and this element of sci-fi. And so I was pulling from the way they would speak about the cars from the 1950s, but also looking at these cars like the Cyclones and the Firebirds and these different cars that were meant as like, what will they be in the future? And so they had all these crazy, wild designs. Um, and mix that in with the lowriders and also give it this futuristic feel to it.
That's so cool. I love that. When um when sort of you first found out about the show, what was your initial thought about what you wanted to make? Like, was this your first landing market where you're like, I know exactly what this is, or how did that come about?
Um, it was definitely one of the first ideas I had. So I think Emmanuel is the one who approached me first with it.
Yes.
And which, like, thank you both for including me because the whole experience has been so amazing. So when Emmanuel approached me, they mentioned Chicano futurism was like one of the first terms
Mhm.
that had come up and this element of sci-fi. And for me, I love researching things and studying stuff. So the first thing I went and did was, well, let me go look up Chicano futurism.
Mhm.
Let me see what comes up. And one of the first things that came up was this paper by a lady named Catherine Ramirez, who was writing about Chicano futurism and also its relation to Afrofuturism. And there's a mention of Octavia E. Butler and the sci-fi novels that she would write,
Mhm.
and even Catherine mentioning where like within sci-fi how you don't see people of color really and you don't see elements of other cultures. So that stood out to me of just thinking like, oh yeah, I mean, I've watched Star Wars, I've watched these movies, and I can't think of anyone that I would thought, oh, that looks like me, that looks like my Theo, that looks like my
Right.
cousin, or anything like that. And I'm thinking these cars are already so amazing, and the spaceships that they design are incredible, and they put so much effort into them. But why not have something that does draw from another element or cultural reference too. And so it was one of the first thoughts of, okay, future lowriders are such an integral part of Chicano culture and sci-fi, and like why not? Why would there not be these flying lowrider spaceships
Yeah.
in the future? Like that just seems in my head, I thought that seems such a natural progression of
Yeah.
where the cars will go, especially within the future. And so other ideas came up, but I honestly can't even remember them at this point. It was that was probably the one that felt the strongest. And I knew it was going to be the biggest challenge, but I also felt, you know what, this is the first time that I will have a piece in a museum. I gotta swing big.
Yeah.
I gotta swing big. And so when I kind of sent that idea out to Emmanuel and it was received well, I was like, all right then. I'm not crazy because part of me thought this maybe the idea is gonna be like, what are you talking about? But when it's like, oh, that actually sounds like a really cool concept, it gave me more confidence of okay, then let's now do the research to see how feasible this could possibly be.
It's such a like as like I was reading and like seeing when you like told us what it was gonna be, I was like, this is such a like genius idea. I was like, this is so like it's almost like how did nobody think of this before? Like it's so obvious. Like of course there'd be low riders in the future. Like what? And it's so cool. What were sort of the challenges of making this? Because have you ever made anything of this sort of scale or detail or anything like this
No,
before? Okay, so
absolutely
this is your
not.
first time taking
So
something like this.
oh yeah, I mean, so prior, it was just really the luchador masks. I
Oh,
hadn't
really?
really done anything larger than that. Like the wings
Okay.
that I did in college were a little bit larger, but they were just flat sheets that I had bended with like by hand and using a
Uh-huh.
roller. So this was the first time that I had ever made anything at this scale and was going to have so many different elements to it. And I'm trying to like tell myself, you know, you're not you might not have um a specific education in these fields, but that doesn't mean that you can't at least try to figure it out yourself. And
Yeah.
so I kind of told myself, we're just going to figure it out. We're just going to have to figure it out through the whole process. And so there were elements that were really frustrating where I couldn't figure out how to get something to work. But there was also this idea of, okay, if I see a class though that kind of talks about this,
Mm.
I'm going to try to take that class. If I have really long commutes sometimes when I'm working, and so sometimes that meant that I was just putting on a podcast where I'm listening now for over an hour on Bondo. How do you apply Bondo?
Oh,
How
okay.
how do you do this? How do you do that? And so a lot of it was just learning as I went, and the scale was an issue because at first I was working in probably maybe like a 4 foot by 3 foot space. It was really small. So I had to kind of ask my parents, like, hey, is there any way possible that I could possibly move some stuff so I could make this project and it's going to be large scale? And they were all for it. They were super proud and excited for me to have the opportunity in the first place, and they knew what it meant to me. So they were willing to show up however that was going to be possible. So part of it too is just finding the car parts. That the parts that I used are from a '71 Buick Riviera. And at first, I was actually looking for a Cadillac DeVille 62, and I found one, but I just couldn't. I couldn't get those parts.
Okay.
So with the Buick Riviera, it ended up being perfect. So when you're looking at the car, that top portion of the car is actually the rear fenders, and where you sit would actually be the wheel wells where your tires would go. So I just flipped them up and butted them together and then welded them. And then the trunk is the original trunk too. And so that's all from the original car. So learning kind of how to chop a car. I didn't have to chop the whole thing, but chopping pieces off of it, that was new. Cleaning parts out from it, violating OSHA regulations while doing so, because it'll tell me you need to clamp blah blah blah, and I'm like, I don't have clamps, but I can like put my legs here and hold it while I chop with my hand. And so which I try to be as careful as I possibly can, but yeah, there was some stuff that probably wasn't the best way to do it. But I got it done. And then the whole bottom part, I fabricated myself. The chassis, too, was kind of looking at videos, okay, looking at speedster cars and seeing how a chassis was made. And so I made the chassis and the framing, and I fabricated the whole bottom. I made the grill, and then chopping the other elements, and then also finding these pieces that were well known to be on lowrider cars too. So the tail lights are the bullet tail lights that you often see on Impalas and other lowriders. And so I thought, okay, I want that. The steering wheel, having it being chrome with chain, that is something that I've always seen and I loved it. I was like, I gotta have that element. So the lowrider switches, same things. There were things that I thought it has to have that, so it says lowrider, but the shape itself speaks more towards maybe a futuristic shape. The seat, I went to so many stores looking for that blue velour velvet fabric, and finally I found it. And so I sat there for hours and hours just hand stitching the
Oh,
whole
wow.
thing on there. So, which at one point my mom did like come in and she helped me a little bit too. But that's all
It's all
hand
hand
stitched.
stitched.
Yeah.
Wow, the attention to detail on all this is crazy. I'm just like imagining you like literally just like getting a what is a Buick? Is it a truck or is it a car?
It's a car.
It's a car.
It's a
Okay.
car, yeah. Which the cars themselves are beautiful, and I felt bad in a way when I found that car. My dad went with me, which again, my dad, I tell him, hey, I found this place that has a bunch of Buick Rivieras. Will you come with me with the truck so we can see if we can like get these parts? Or hey, can we drive out to Hesperia to look at these Cadillacs? And he's like, yeah, okay. So with this Buick Riviera, the guy had gotten the car and he had the full car, and someone must have had it as a lowrider already because it
Okay.
had the most beautiful candy paint with yellow and like lace roses on it. So there was a part of me that felt really sad with covering that all up.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it was so scratched and dinged up and
Okay.
had rust. And so I had to patch a bunch of things that I thought there's no way that I can salvage the paint that's on there. And I also thought too that for me, when I thought of space in the galaxy, I thought blue just felt like the right color for it.
Okay. Because in the statement you said because they would match the night sky.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. I'm thinking about almost like incognito mode.
Yeah, yeah.
Like catch me if you can.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, these cars are going so fast, and there was this idea too of when Emmanuel had mentioned like alienness, and again, like I still kind of think into politics as well too. But my thought was, okay, if you're out in space, my head, I'm going, there's no borders. I don't want borders anymore. This is, you're going to Mars, you're going to this galaxy, you're going to that galaxy. There was even a line that I thought with the I can't think now with the label, the description of saying, well, let the top down, let your hair blow. And I thought, well, what if you don't have hair? What if you have tentacles? What if you have antennas? What if you have, and so but there was this thought of like no more division between beings and entities, that you're all out there. And I even thought about making like almost a passport in a way to kind of show like you're going everywhere, and there isn't this idea of like you can only go here, you can only go there. So there was sort of this idea too of like, what does it mean to be an alien? What space are you allowed to travel in? And this idea, like, this is outer space. You can go anywhere with this thing.
It's such a interesting idea of like in the future, like I guess like hoping that there is no such thing as like borders and you can't
Hmm.
just go anywhere. Very hopeful of you.
Yeah.
Sort of with this are you able to fit in there yourself?
I am. I am able to fit in there. I have crawled in there a couple times, and I did want it to be open, like for the possibility that someone could get inside of it. I felt like that was important just for scale, so it would kind of make sense. Um, and I did kind of contemplate like, oh, it'd be really neat if people could just like get in it from time to time, but the logistics of that would be really difficult to try to
Yeah.
do it, and so that's kind of not possible at the moment. But I do fit in there. My brothers have tried it and they fit in there as well. I think if someone's very tall, they might they
The-
might their feet might get close to the grill in the front, but I think they can
okay.
still get in
Okay.
there.
And do you see this as sort of I'm like with this moving forward, like how do you see this? Are you open to folks sort of using it as props for photo shoot, or do you want to keep it more as like, no, this is like a sculpture piece you look and don't touch, or are you thinking like, no, this is a display piece? Like, how do you imagine this piece existing now that it's in the museum and moving forward?
I'm open to it. I think that it would be really neat to have a photo shoot done with it. Ulisa had actually brought that up, and I didn't consider it because I do not have much knowledge with photography.
Okay.
That is something that I'm not very familiar with. So to me, it didn't come to mind because I don't think that I could really do it. But I think it would be really neat for it to be used in that way. It would be awesome if I could get it shown in other spaces too, which I'm hoping that that's going to be the possibility. And I'm open to people like being able to sit in there as well. I think I would just need to work out like who's providing assistance for someone to get in there. But also, there's a part of me that kind of thinks about the accessibility of it. I know not everyone can get in there depending on their ability. And so that part I kind of feel like I would need to work out so that it's more open for more people to be able to actually sit inside or enjoy it too.
Hmm. Are you hoping to make more of these? Like, would you like to make a little fleet of
I
these?
would love to. I would love to do that. I was I was kind of thinking about how neat it would be to sort of make the environment as well of what
Ooh,
these
okay.
spaceships would kind of rest in, like what would the future look like, or if it's not running off of gas but it has some kind of fuel or something, like are they all at a fuel station, or what does a lowrider meetup look like in the future, sort of. And
That.
so kind of having a couple of these cars.
Uh-huh.
So I definitely want to make more, but it's just a matter of the logistics of it was really expensive to make it. It was very time consuming, and storage of it too. Like once the show ends at the Cheech, I don't know what I'm doing with that thing because it's big.
Yeah, no, it's quite a large piece, but I mean, I think I can definitely see this existing in a lot of more spaces and a lot more museums. Like, I don't know, put an open call out there, be like, anybody want to display this? Like, I'm sure people would love to have it shown around.
I would hope so. And I do want to make more. Like it's still in my head that I want to work off of a 62 Cadillac DeVille. It's still in my head that I want to work with the Impalas. Like there's a couple cars and there's a couple elements that I definitely want to keep exploring with.
Would you ever take it to an actual like lowrider car meetup?
I think I would if I knew someone there at the
Okay.
meetup. I would be a little nervous to just show up because I wouldn't. I would be nervous if people would look at it like, what get like chingazo like what is this that this person has brought in, like if it would make sense. Um, so I would love to. I would just feel more comfortable if I kind of knew maybe the space that I could put it in. I went to my first lowrider convention with my dad in Long Beach this year,
Hmm.
and it was incredible. It was amazing. So I do want to like attend more shows, or my goal is I want my own lowrider, and I want to customize it. So I do want to become again more a part of that culture because I didn't necessarily grow up with it. I
Hmm.
admired it from afar. So yeah, I'd like to be more immersed and maybe like put my little spaceship there too to see if anyone likes it.
I think they would love it. I'm like, I just have a feeling that it'd be showing up like cruising in that.
Yeah.
Iconic. I would love to see that when that happens. Please, again, take as many pictures and show me. I would love to
Okay.
see it. And yeah, like how's been the reception been for? I mean, as I love it, but I'm like, how has the reception been towards people of that community, more in the lowrider? Have you spoken to those folks, like, and heard their thoughts on it?
I've you It's been really, really wonderful and sweet, the reception that I've received from it. And it feels really validating as like an emerging artist, feeling like I'm still kind of barely getting my foot in the door and things kind of taking off. So to hear such kind things being spoken about the work and about my practice, it means the world to me because to me, I recently had someone introduce me to someone else as, oh, this is Veronica. She's a professional artist, and I was like, oh
You-
my God, I get that title now. Like, whoa, like I
yes.
couldn't believe it. And so to have I recently spoke at UCI for their exhibition making class, and it was virtual, and I was so terrified, but I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm talking. Like I'm the one that's actually presenting my ideas now in my practice. Like this is crazy. I can't believe it. And so people have been so kind, and I've spoken to um, one or two people that are a bit more immersed within the lowrider culture, and they were like very receptive of it. And then I've spoken with people just when I'm there at the museum. I had the first instance of someone actually recognizing me, like, "Oh, are you the one that made that?" And I was like, whoa, like someone recognized me. But like they got it, they got it from the label, and they got it from what I was doing, and the message that it had. And I've even had Alexa, who's in the show too, does tours at the Cheech. And there was one time that I was there, and there's a bunch of little kids, and I think they're maybe second or third graders. And I had this group of girls that came up like, you made that? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, you're so cool. Wow, I can't believe you did that. And one girl was so sweet. And she's like, I'm so proud of you. You did a great job. And
Oh.
it was just the cutest thing. So I've had I've had a wonderful reception from it. My family was incredible. A lot of them showed up for the opening. And so it was so sweet to see like my family showed up, like friends showed up, like to have that. And then even my partner, he's in Ohio right now, but even him throughout the whole process, it's like me sending him pictures saying like, what do you think about this, what do you think about that? And even with the opening, him asking me like, how did it go, and telling me I'm so proud of you. And so all of those things, like I do feel really lucky that I have a community around me, of whether it's an acquaintance or like family or loved ones, that they've been really like sweet and like just kind words about the whole thing. And I got to meet Cheech, which was really cool. So that was really awesome.
That's cool. Did he go? I'm guessing he got to see the work then, right?
He did. So he got to see the work, and and it seemed, I like, he said he liked it, which meant a lot to know, like, whoa,
Yeah.
Cheech likes the piece. So that felt really, really awesome. And I was trying to like crack a joke and tell him, I thought about putting a blue fur interior to match your car from Up in Smoke, and I got a little chuckle out of him. And that to me was like, okay, I'll put that on my CV. I made Cheech laugh. He seems like he likes it. I'll take it. That was really cool. Again, just validating as an artist. Like, okay, even if I don't feel like I'm that like seasoned or practiced as an artist, that the effort and the work that I'm putting in is valid and it's showing, and I'm just gonna keep pushing with that and keep growing with that.
I love that you got to meet him and then you got to see the work. That's so cool. How do you think like younger you would have reacted to this? Like right before you took the leap to take art, like would younger you have believed this or
No.
no?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. I think I had it very much in my mind that this was just not a possibility. I think I saw it very much as a dream. And even again, my partner and I, Jonathan, we were talking about this where he goes, you know, when I first met you, you told me that you wanted to be an artist and you had no idea where your life was going to take you with this, but you really wanted to do it. And he goes, in just the couple years that we've been together, look at all the stuff you've done. And I hadn't really sat there and thought like, wow, yeah, like I'm actually making work. I'm actually now in a couple exhibitions. I've done a residency. I have my first piece in a museum. Like so when I think of like little kid me would be stoked to
Oh.
just see like whoa, she's really doing it. Like she's doing it. I think a lot of artists are hard on themselves, so I'm still very much like, okay, but what like I still see the issues with everything. I still see like I need to fix this or I need to do that or I want to get to here. I want to get to this point. I'm still not matching up here or I'm not at the level I want. But when I put that perspective of thinking of like little kid me, I could see little kid me the same way that those girls responded to me on the field trip of like, a girl did this, like she did this, like a Chicano, like a brown girl did this, like wow. So in that way, it feels really
Oh.
nice.
I love that. Because I was gonna ask you next, like, how do you feel sort of having your work now that it's been in the Cheech Museum and sort of like now this will be part of Chicano history? Like, has that hit you?
No,
Like,
absolutely
you are
not.
now officially
No.
part of the Chicano history, like, lexicon, you know? Like, this is now going to be something that people will be referencing years, decades from now.
I mean, if that's the case, that sounds incredible. I hadn't thought that that could even be like a possibility, but that would be amazing to think about that because there's plenty of artists that I still think about that I still hold dear to like to my own practice or just reference as well too. So to kind of think like, whoa, I could be that person for someone else, that feels incredible, and to also do it within a Chicano space just sounds amazing too because again for me and my practice, a lot of it is me going, oh, I think for so long I was trying to assimilate
Mm.
and now I'm realizing like I don't have to do that. I can engage in this culture and really celebrate it and be a part of it. And even if I feel like a bit like an outsider at times too. So to think like, whoa, I could have a space in the historical lens of that as well. I think that's neat. I hope it's almost inspiring in a way to someone else who maybe feels like, oh, I'm such an outsider, I can't be in it. Like, no, you can be in it. You just have to find your own like path to get in there as well too. And I feel like it should be welcoming to all, especially if you are open to learning more and to being a part of it. Then why not open that space and bring more people into it?
Mm-hmm. 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 No, I really do believe that this is going to be something that years later, like somebody's going to be teaching in their like Chicano class. Like they're going to be like, "Oh, look at this!" Like
That'd be crazy. That'd be so cool.
I can see it. Trust me. Moving forward, where do you sort of see your art practice heading towards? Like, did you enjoy working at this scale, or do you see yourself working larger, or are you like, okay, let me scale it down a bit? Like, when you were there at the opening, you had,
Oh yeah.
was it not a Corsair or a
Yeah.
bustier, um, metal piece that you
Mhm.
made, and that's so cool. I need to talk to you about that because, like, that's I want one. But yeah, like moving forward, like how do you sort of see this for you?
Um, in terms of scale, I would love to go bigger. I think
Okay.
that'll just be a matter of like when can I practically do that. But I definitely would love to make a lot larger sculptures and within the same size range of that spaceship, and then also back down to the smaller ones. I'm still drafting out more lucha masks. Like that's
Okay.
still a series that I want to keep working with, and I don't know that I've made anything smaller, but I would be open to it. I love it because I feel like there isn't rules in terms of like what I can do and what I can't do with it. So scale wise, definitely open to all of it. Thematic wise, I'm open to all of it too. Like I love being able to work within a Chicano like art field and do that. And at the same time though, I don't think that that means that I have to stick with that either. I do also want to explore other themes too that might not be super like directly connected to that, but I'm open to all of it, and I love the learning process as well too. So as long as I'm still learning and intaking more information, then I'm happy to kind of see like where it goes.
I love that you're always open to learning. Like as you've been talking more and more, like hearing you take classes, like I think that yeah, as you grow, like you never stop learning.
Yeah, I don't think we should. I think that there's something really valuable about education, whether it's coming from an institution or your own practice or your own research, like wherever it's coming from though, I think you should ideally strive to keep learning stuff because it can be a fun process, especially if you're finding something that is just different and unique, and you never know how they're gonna kind of like feed into one another either. So, like this last weekend, I took a trapeze class with my cousin.
I saw that. That was so cool.
So, and that could seem completely unrelated to my art practice at the moment, but in reality, I actually don't think it's that far off because I have done performance art in the past. I do want to get back to that I like field too, but it also is correlated in the sense of just who I am as a person and who I want to be. And so I'm a very anxious person. It is hard for me to kind of come out of my comfort zone and to do different stuff. And so I've told myself like, okay, every year you're going to try something different, you're going to try something new and it might terrify you, but you're going to do it because even if you make a fool out of yourself, at least you did it. And at
Yeah.
least at an old age, when I think of myself in my 80s, I'm like, well, I'd rather think back, oh, I remember that time I did this and I was so scared, but at least I did it.
Yeah.
Instead of regretting, like, oh, I wish I had tried that. So the trapeze class was so much fun. I'm so grateful my cousin did it with me. It's not necessarily straight to the art, but it is a part of me learning to go, it's okay to be scared
Yeah.
and still try something new. And it could be really fun too.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think that no matter what you do, you learn it, you learn from it and you take something from it and apply
Hmm.
it to your art. Like when you're talking about trapeze, like I feel like for me, one of the things that I would learn probably most from trapeze is trusting yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's such a like you're literally flying through the air and you have to trust that you will be okay.
Absolutely.
So I definitely love that you're exploring everything outside of just art, like living life and learning from it.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I think I spent a number of years not doing that.
Okay.
And it wasn't good and it wasn't healthy. And so like with college, I actually didn't finish my first year of college. I withdrew because my health got so bad. So and I immediately went into, okay, how do I get myself back on track? And that's where I kind of got to the point of like, you know what? I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be scared of everything. I gotta like get out there and try stuff. And so with the art, I'm doing that, and then I'm trying to within just like elements of my life too. Of okay, I'm gonna take this class and see how it goes, and
Yeah.
do other stuff and see how it goes.
You never know where it'll lead you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to see where you go, to see one of these days there's going to be a whole little fleet of yours.
Yeah. Hopefully they also like can actually bump up and down. And
Yeah.
I was even looking at how to make them hover. So at some point, hopefully, I can actually kind of figure that out because I started researching it.
That'll be sick as fuck. I feel like in a matter of years, we're going to figure out how to make things levitate. And when that happens, you're going to be the first to jump on it.
I hope so. I really hope so. I'm gonna keep learning as I go.
Amazing. Well, would you like to tell the folks where to find you?
Sure. So the easiest place would probably be on my Instagram, which is underscore Veronica underscore Preciado. I think another underscore at the end. But if you just put in my name, I should pop up. And I have a website too that's also veronicapreciado.com. And I think those are probably the best ways. am a part of a show right now too at Super Chief Gallery in Los Angeles. So if you want to see other work, then that'll be up until January 19th. And I think that's like,
That's it.
besides the Cheech, yeah.
Slay. Well, thank you so much for coming out here. I had a blast chatting with you, getting to know you more, and just bonding over welding because I love welding.
Well, at some point when the studio opens up, we'll have to get you in there too, so that way you
Please.
can start doing stuff, and we can make that custom like
The
corset as
corset,
well
a whole
too.
like
Yeah,
armor piece. I would love that
exactly.
so
Yeah.
much.
Oh,
But yeah, thank you so much. If y'all want to check me out everywhere, just Art Perry, the podcast I have now on Instagram and TikTok, Red Thoughts Perry. Check out my website, perpicasso.com, and go check out this show at the Cheech up until March 16th of 2025. Go check out Veronica's piece. Go look at her spaceship. It's sick as fuck. Trust me, you're gonna love it. Yeah, and talk to y'all later. Ciao.
I thank you so much. I
Of
really
course.
appreciate
Thank you
this.
so much for coming out.